T-34. This medium tank became the most produced tank of World War II, with approximately 57,300 units manufactured between 1940 and 1945. The T-34 revolutionized tank design through its combination of sloped armor, powerful 76.2mm gun, reliable diesel engine, and exceptional mobility. Designer Mikhail Koshkin developed the tank from the earlier BT series, incorporating American Christie suspension and revolutionary sloped armor that provided superior protection compared to vertical plating of similar thickness. Early production models featured the L-11 gun, quickly replaced by the superior F-34 gun that could defeat German Panzer III and IV tanks at combat ranges. The tank's frontal armor measured 45mm thick, but sloped at 60 degrees, providing effective protection equivalent to much thicker vertical armor. Powered by the V2 diesel engine producing 500 horsepower, the T-34 achieved speeds up to 55 kilometers per hour, despite weighing approximately 26,000 kilograms. When Germany invaded in June 1941, Soviet forces possessed 967 T-34s that shocked German crews who found their standard anti-tank weapons ineffective. Production continued throughout the war despite German advances, forcing factories to relocate east of the Ural Mountains, with some tanks rolling directly from Stalingrad factories to front lines unpainted. The improved T-34/85 variant entered service in 1944, mounting an 85mm gun in a larger three-man turret to counter German Panthers and Tigers. Soviet industry continuously refined production methods, cutting both cost and manufacturing time in half between 1941 and 1943, earning the tank its nickname as the Russian Model T. T-70. This light tank entered production in early 1942 to replace the inadequate T-60, with approximately 8,200 units built before production ceased in late 1943. The T-70 mounted a 45mm model 1938 gun and coaxial 7.62mm machine gun in a one-man turret, significantly limiting combat effectiveness due to crew workload. Two coupled GAZ-202 gasoline engines delivered combined output of approximately 140 horsepower, enabling the tank to achieve road speeds up to 45 kilometers per hour. Armor protection ranged from 10 to 60 millimeters, providing better survivability than its predecessor while keeping weight at approximately 9,500 kilograms. The single-man turret proved the design's greatest weakness, forcing the commander to simultaneously observe, command, load, and fire the main gun. Despite these limitations, the T-70 performed adequately against infantry, light vehicles, and lightly armored German targets during defensive operations. Small factories unable to produce T-34 components manufactured the T-70, helping maintain Soviet armored vehicle production during critical periods. The design featured torsion bar suspension and relatively simple construction that facilitated rapid production and field maintenance. By mid-1943, the Red Army recognized that light tanks could not keep pace with T-34 operations and proved vulnerable to improved German anti-tank weapons. The chassis remained valuable, forming the basis for the highly successful Su-76 self-propelled gun that mounted a 76mm gun for infantry support and tank destroyer roles. Production ended in favor of concentrating resources on T-34 medium tanks and Su-76 self-propelled guns. T-60. This light tank was designed for rapid production in facilities unable to manufacture heavier vehicles, with approximately 5,900 units built between 1941 and late 1942. The T-60 mounted a 20mm TNSH autocannon and coaxial 7.62mm machine gun, providing firepower adequate only against soft targets and very light armor. Powered by a GAZ-202 gasoline engine delivering approximately 70 horsepower, the tank could reach road speeds up to 44 kilometers per hour. Frontal armor measured 20 millimeters thick with sides at 15 millimeters, making the vehicle vulnerable to even light German anti-tank weapons. The design incorporated a simple two-man crew configuration with commander-gunner in the turret and driver in the hull. Weight of approximately 5,400 kilograms enabled good mobility but limited protection and firepower, severely restricted combat effectiveness. Development began urgently after the T-40 amphibious light tank proved inadequate, and designers prioritized speed of production over combat capability. Small automotive and tractor factories manufactured the T-60 using readily available components, helping maintain Soviet tank production despite losing major industrial centers to German advances. The vehicle performed reconnaissance and infantry support roles, though crews recognized its significant vulnerability in combat. Some T-60 chassis were converted to mount Katyusha rocket launchers or other specialized equipment. By 1942, the Red Army sought a more capable replacement, leading to development of the T-70 with heavier armor and gun. The T-60's primary value lay in keeping Soviet units equipped with some armored vehicles during desperate periods, rather than meaningful combat effectiveness against German armor. KV-1. This heavy tank entered production in 1939 following successful winter war trials in Finland, with approximately 5,200 units of all KV-1 variants manufactured until production ceased in 1942. The KV-1 featured revolutionary armor protection with 90 mm on the gun mantlet and 75 mm on hull and turret fronts, making it virtually impenetrable to German anti-tank weapons in 1941. Its main armament consisted of a 76.2 mm gun, initially the F-32 and later the improved ZIS-5, providing firepower comparable to the T-34. The tank weighed approximately 43,000 kilograms and utilized a V2K diesel engine, producing 600 horsepower, achieving maximum speeds of 35 kilometers per hour. When Operation Barbarossa began in June 1941, Soviet forces possessed 639 operational KV-1 tanks that shocked German forces encountering them in combat. Individual KV-1 tanks demonstrated remarkable survivability, with one famous example blocking German advances at Rossinier for an entire day despite being hit repeatedly by 37 and 50 mm anti-tank guns. The design suffered significant mechanical reliability problems, particularly with the transmission, which crews sometimes had to shift using hammers, and the awkward Holt Caterpillar design dated from the 1920s. Poor visibility through narrow vision slits and cramped interior ergonomics further hampered combat effectiveness. Later variants included the KV-1S with reduced armor for improved mobility and the KV-85 mounting an 85 mm gun. Production ended in favor of the IS series as German guns improved, and the T-34 proved more cost-effective for most tactical situations. The KV-1's primary legacy lay in influencing subsequent Soviet heavy tank development and shocking German forces early in the war. IS-2. This heavy tank mounted the massive 122 mm D-25T gun with approximately 2,250 units produced between October 1943 and 1945. Development began when the earlier IS-1 with an 85 mm gun proved inadequate once T-34/85 tanks entered production with similar armament. Soviet engineers tested both the D-25 122 mm and D-10 100 mm guns, selecting the former despite a slower rate of fire because it delivered superior high-explosive performance and adequate anti-tank capability. The 122 mm gun could penetrate Panther frontal armor at 2,500 meters and delivered devastating effects against fortifications and infantry. Frontal armor measured 120 millimeters thick at 30-degree slope on the glacis, providing protection against German 88 mm guns at typical combat ranges of 1,000 meters. The IS-2 weighed approximately 46,000 kilograms and utilized a V2 IS diesel engine, producing 520 horsepower, achieving speeds up to 37 kilometers per hour. The four-man crew operated in cramped conditions due to the large gun breech and ammunition, with the commander forced to assist with loading duties. First combat occurred in April 1944, when IS-2 tanks of the 11th and 72nd Independent Guards heavy tank regiments engaged German armor successfully. Units typically organized into regiments of 21 tanks, employed as breakthrough forces to destroy fortifications and heavy enemy positions. The separate loading ammunition consisting of shell and powder charge reduced rate of fire to approximately 2 rounds per minute, a significant disadvantage in tank duels but acceptable for the assault role. Famous engagements included Sandomierz in August 1944, where 11 IS-2 tanks fought 14 Tiger II tanks, destroying 4 German vehicles. The IS-2 excelled in urban warfare during battles for cities like Berlin, where its heavy armor and powerful gun proved decisive against German defensive positions. T-44. This medium tank represented a transitional design entering service in late 1944, with fewer than 2,000 units produced before war's end and limited combat deployment. Soviet designers intended the T-44 as the T-34 successor, featuring significantly improved armor protection ranging from 15 to 120 millimeters in streamlined, compact hull design. The tank mounted an 85 millimeter ZS-53 main gun in a roomier 3-man turret with better crew accommodation than previous designs. Revolutionary features included transverse engine mounting that reduced hull length while improving internal volume, and torsion bar suspension providing superior ride quality. The V-44 diesel engine produced approximately 520 horsepower, enabling the 32,000-kilogram tank to achieve road speeds up to 53 kilometers per hour. Lower profile compared to T-34 made the vehicle harder to spot and engage, while thicker armor provided substantially improved protection. Despite these advantages, initial mechanical problems and wartime production constraints prevented large-scale deployment during World War II. The Red Army issued limited numbers primarily to Guards units for evaluation and training, rather than widespread combat use. Most combat action occurred post-war, with T-44 tanks participating in suppressing the Hungarian uprising in 1956. The design's primary significance lay in serving as a developmental stepping stone to the legendary T-54/T-55 series that dominated Soviet armored forces throughout the Cold War. Engineers incorporated numerous T-44 innovations into subsequent tank designs, including transverse engine layout and improved armor schemes. Production continued briefly after the war, before factories transitioned to T-54 manufacturing. The T-44 demonstrated Soviet capability to rapidly innovate tank design even during wartime's final desperate year, though arriving too late for significant World War II impact. KV-2. This assault gun variant mounted a massive 152mm M10T howitzer in an enormous box-shaped turret, with only approximately 203 units built during 1940 and 41. Soviet General Staff requested the design during the Winter War against Finland to destroy concrete bunkers along the Mannerheim line that standard 76mm guns could not penetrate effectively. The enormous turret stood nearly 5 meters tall, making the vehicle an obvious target and creating severe stability problems on sloped terrain. Weight of approximately 52,000 kilograms combined with the tall profile severely limited mobility and made the tank extremely difficult to conceal. The 152mm howitzer fired high explosive shells devastating against fortifications, but reload time was slow and ammunition supply limited to approximately 36 rounds. The vehicle utilized the same chassis, suspension, and V2K diesel engine as the KV-1, but the additional weight and height exacerbated existing mechanical reliability problems. The turret could not traverse on uneven ground due to its size and weight, forcing crews to position the entire vehicle for firing. First combat occurred during the Winter War, where prototypes demonstrated the ability to destroy Finnish bunkers, though tests may have been against already captured positions. When Operation Barbarossa began, KV-2 tanks shocked German forces through their imposing appearance and powerful armament, but proved highly vulnerable due to mechanical problems and poor mobility. A famous engagement at Rossini saw a single KV-2 pin down German forces for an extended period before running out of ammunition. Production ceased when Soviet factories evacuated east in 1941, as the impractical design no longer justified resources better spent on more effective vehicles. The concept of mounting heavy howitzers on tank chassis continued with more successful casemate-style designs like the Su-152 that eliminated the problematic turret while retaining devastating firepower. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe to this channel, like this video, and drop a comment. See you on the next one.